All right, take a step back for a moment. Imagine standing on a high mountain, looking down at the entire history of human civilization. You'd see the grand empires of the past: Rome, Persia, Byzantium, the Mongol Empire, the British Empire, the Soviet Union. All of them, like waves crashing on the shore. They rise, they dominate, they flourish, and then they crumble into dust. Every single one. It's almost eerie, isn't it? No matter how powerful, how enlightened, how advanced a society becomes, there's always an inevitable decline. But have you ever wondered why? Wars? Sure, they play a part. Greed? Of course. Corruption? Definitely. But these are just symptoms of a much deeper, much more fundamental force. There's something lurking beneath the surface. Something constant, relentless, and quietly destructive. It doesn't discriminate by race, class, or culture. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, educated or illiterate. It exists in every government, every institution, every workplace, and even in our everyday interactions. What is this mysterious, unrelenting force that has shaped history more than any king, emperor, or revolution? Think about it. Technology has changed. We've gone from fire and the wheel to artificial intelligence and space exploration. Culture has evolved. Traditions rise and fade. Values shift. Ideas get replaced. Governments, economies, and religions have come and gone. But there is one force that remains completely unchanged throughout human history. That force is stupidity. Let that sink in. No matter how much humanity advances, no matter how many books we write, discoveries we make, or lessons we claim to learn, stupidity remains untouched, an unshakable constant of human existence. It has caused more destruction, more suffering, and more setbacks than any other force in the world. And the worst part? We constantly underestimate it. We like to believe that stupidity is just a minor annoyance, something we can brush off with a sarcastic joke or a meme. But no, my friend. Stupidity is a silent killer of civilizations. It has ruined economies, started wars, toppled governments, and even held back scientific progress for centuries. And it's not just about other people. It's about you. It's about me. It's about the way we navigate life, how we make decisions, how we interact with the world. Because whether we realize it or not, stupidity isn't just something out there. It's something within us too. So now we come to the most important question of all. How does stupidity work? If we're going to survive, if we're going to be the rare few who don't fall into its trap, then we need to understand its laws. See, stupidity isn't just random chaos. It actually follows very specific patterns. It moves in predictable ways, like a disease that follows a mathematical model. And once you understand these laws of stupidity, you'll never see the world the same way again. So, let's get to it. Let's define the laws of stupidity and figure out how to protect ourselves from this invisible but immensely powerful force. Because history has shown us one thing. Stupidity doesn't need a reason to destroy everything. It just does. And if we don't learn to recognize it, then we'll be its next victims. Are you ready? Let's go. All right, my friend. Let's get real about this. If there's one universal mistake that humanity makes over and over again, it's this. We always underestimate the sheer power of stupidity. It doesn't matter if you're the smartest person in the room, a Nobel laureate, a military strategist, or a seasoned politician. You will at some point overestimate the intelligence of others, and that will cost you dearly. We like to believe that people are at their core rational beings. We assume that when presented with facts, reason, and logic, they will make the right choice, or at least a choice that makes sense. But that's where we go wrong. Because, my friend, stupidity does not follow logic. It does not obey reason, and it certainly does not require an explanation to exist. Now, why do we keep falling for this? Why do smart people, over and over again, make the fatal mistake of assuming that others will act rationally? The answer is simple. Because we think like rational beings and we assume everyone else does too. See, intelligence comes with a flaw. It makes us believe that just because we can see things clearly, others will too. It's called the illusion of rationality, and it's one of the biggest blind spots in human thinking. You assume that because you wouldn't do something incredibly dumb, other people wouldn't either. You assume that if there's an obviously better decision, people will take it. You assume that if you explain something clearly, people will understand. But here's the truth. Stupidity is not a lack of information. It's a force of nature. It exists independently of knowledge, education, or experience. And the moment you think you can reason your way around it, you've already lost. Now, let's talk about how underestimating stupidity has literally destroyed civilizations. Because this isn't just some abstract concept. This has shaped the course of human history in ways most people don't even realize. You know the Roman Empire, right? The one that dominated the world for centuries with its military, engineering, law, and philosophy? The one that basically created the blueprint for Western civilization? Yeah, it fell. Not just because of external enemies, but because of stupidity from within. Corrupt leaders ignored clear warnings about the empire's decline. The economy was collapsing, but they kept printing worthless money. Barbarian invasions were coming, but they fought among themselves instead of preparing. Roman elites, some of the most educated people of their time, assumed things would just work out because they always had before. They overestimated the intelligence of their own system. And that's the thing about stupidity. You don't have to be an idiot to fall victim to it. All you need to do is assume that others will act logically, and before you know it, your empire is in flames. Fast forward to the 20th century. The Roaring Twenties were a time of economic boom, industrial growth, and reckless optimism. The stock market was going up, 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 and everyone thought it would never come down. Except, it did. And hard. The people in charge, bankers, investors, government officials, refused to believe the warnings. They assumed that people would act in their own best interest. They assumed that greed had limits and that the economy could keep expanding forever. They were wrong, and what followed was one of the worst economic collapses in history, plunging millions into poverty and suffering for over a decade. Why? Because the so-called smartest people in the world underestimated stupidity. Now, this one is the darkest of them all. Because when stupidity is combined with fear, manipulation, and power, it leads to some of the greatest atrocities in history. People watched fascist regimes rise in Germany, Italy, and Spain and thought, oh, this is just temporary. People wouldn't actually let this happen. Intellectuals and politicians assumed that mass propaganda wouldn't work because people were too smart for that. Entire nations convinced themselves that surely the worst wouldn't come to pass. And yet, it did. Because stupidity, when weaponized, doesn't just harm individuals, it destroys entire civilizations. And what's worse, it thrives on people underestimating it. Let me tell you a little story about Galileo Galilei, one of the greatest scientific minds in history. The guy who discovered that the Earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around. Now, Galileo assumed that if he presented clear, undeniable evidence, the church would accept the truth. So he wrote books. He made calculations. He explained everything logically. And what happened? They put him on trial, forced him to recant, and placed him under house arrest for the rest of his life. See, Galileo made the classic mistake. He thought that if something was obviously true, then people would accept it. He underestimated stupidity. And because of that, science was set back for centuries. All right, so if we can't stop stupidity and we can't reason with it, what can we do? Simple. You must always assume that stupidity is present and plan accordingly. Never assume people will act logically. Always prepare for the most irrational possible response. Expect stupidity to show up where you least expect it. In governments, in business, in personal relationships, anywhere. Do not waste energy trying to fix stupid people. You won't. They don't want to be fixed. If you see stupidity forming a pattern, get out of its way. Don't try to fight it head on, it will drag you down. Keep your own stupidity in check. We all have blind spots. The moment you think you're immune to stupidity is the moment you start acting stupid yourself. The first law of stupidity is brutal, but it's real. If you forget about it, it will cost you time, money, energy, and sometimes even your entire future. So remember this. Stupidity is not just out there. It's in every system, every society, and every era. And the moment you underestimate it, you've already lost. That's the hard truth, my friend. Now let's move on to the second law, the inescapable presence of stupidity. Because if you think this is bad, just wait until you hear what's next. Let me know if you want me to keep going. We're just getting started. All right, my friend. If the first law of stupidity wasn't unsettling enough, buckle up. Because this one is even worse. You see, stupidity is not just common. It is constant. It does not decrease with education. It does not fade with progress, and it does not depend on intelligence. It is a force as unshakable as gravity, as consistent as the speed of light. In every society, in every era, the percentage of stupid people remains exactly the same. No matter how much we evolve, how much we innovate, how much we claim to advance, stupidity stays. Now, let's get a little mathematical, but in a way that makes sense. Think of alpha as the universal stupidity coefficient. It represents the fraction of people in any given population who are fundamentally, undeniably stupid. Ancient Rome? Same alpha. The Renaissance? Same alpha. Silicon Valley? Same alpha. The most prestigious universities in the world? Same alpha. No matter where you go, no matter how much technology advances, stupidity does not decrease. It simply redistributes. And here's the kicker. Alpha is immune to education, culture, and intelligence. This means that no matter how many schools we build, no matter how much knowledge we accumulate, the percentage of stupid people does not go down. Let me say that again. The proportion of stupidity in the world does not shrink. It remains exactly the same, forever. This is why history repeats itself. Why wars that should never have happened keep happening. Why economic crashes occur despite endless warnings. Because stupidity is not an anomaly, it is a built-in feature of the human experience. Let me hit you with a concept that makes this even clearer. You've heard of the law of conservation of energy, right? The idea that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed from one form to another? Well, stupidity works the exact same way. The total amount of stupidity in the world remains constant. It does not disappear, it just shifts form. Think of it like this. In the past, stupidity manifested as witch trials, bloodletting, and human sacrifices. Later, it evolved into colonialism, pointless wars, and economic disasters. Today, it appears as social media mobs, conspiracy theories, and people eating Tide Pods. We may think we're getting smarter as a species, but all we're doing is changing where stupidity lives. Stupidity isn't going anywhere. It just puts on a different outfit depending on the era. Now, you might think, but we live in the most technologically advanced age in history. Surely intelligence is winning. Oh, my sweet summer child. If anything, stupidity is thriving now more than ever. You see, technology doesn't eliminate stupidity. It amplifies it. AI is smarter, but people still fall for email scams. Search engines put all human knowledge at our fingertips, but people still believe the earth is flat. We have instant access to facts, but misinformation spreads 10 times faster. Stupidity has found the perfect home in the digital age because now it can travel at the speed of light. Think about it. In the past, a stupid idea could only spread as fast as a person could talk or write. But today, one dumb tweet can infect millions in seconds. The internet didn't make people dumber. It just gave stupidity an exponential growth rate. If you need proof that stupidity is alive and well, look no further than social media. These platforms were supposed to be the ultimate tool for spreading knowledge, a way for people to connect, share ideas, and grow. And yet, what happened? Misinformation spreads 6 times faster than facts. Echo chambers trap people in endless loops of ignorance. Fake news, conspiracy theories, and mass hysteria dominate the digital landscape. Why? Because stupidity is not just a problem, it's an ecosystem. And social media? It's the perfect breeding ground. You've seen it. The person who reads one article and suddenly thinks they know more than experts who spent decades studying the subject. The endless debates where facts don't matter, only who yells louder. The cycle of people believing nonsense because it feels true rather than because it is. That's the second law of stupidity in action. No matter how advanced we become, stupidity adapts, evolves, and thrives. Now, let me ask you something. We like to think we've progressed as a species, that we've learned from history and are moving toward a smarter, more enlightened future. But is that actually true? Or are we just moving stupidity from one domain to another? Because, let's be honest, if we had truly learned from history, would we still be fighting pointless wars? Would we still be electing incompetent leaders? Would people still be rejecting science, falling for scams, and making the same mistakes over and over again? Or have we just built fancier tools to do the same dumb things? I'll leave that for you to think about. But if the second law of stupidity has taught us anything, it's this. Humanity doesn't become less stupid. It just finds more creative ways to show it. Now, knowing that stupidity is a constant, what can you actually do? Accept that stupidity will always exist. You can't eliminate it, but you can learn to recognize and avoid it. Don't assume technology makes people smarter. It just gives stupidity a larger audience. Be skeptical of viral information. Just because something spreads fast doesn't mean it's true. Surround yourself with people who think critically. Stupidity is contagious. So is intelligence. Never assume humanity has evolved past stupidity. The moment you think we're past it, it will find a way to prove you wrong. Stupidity isn't just a part of human nature. It is woven into the very fabric of existence. It is as permanent as gravity, as predictable as the tides, and as destructive as fire in the wrong hands. You cannot defeat stupidity, but you can learn to navigate around it. You can learn to spot its patterns. You can choose not to engage when stupidity tries to drag you down. Because at the end of the day, the only thing more dangerous than stupidity is failing to recognize it when it's right in front of you. Now let's move on to the third law, the most dangerous people in the world, because trust me, this is where it gets really terrifying. Let me know if you're ready to go deeper. All right, my friend, we've covered a lot so far. We know that stupidity is underestimated, first law, and that it is a universal constant, second law. Now we arrive at the most terrifying truth of them all. This is the law that ruins lives, destroys civilizations, and causes suffering on a scale that no other force in history can match. Let me hit you with the brutal truth right away. A stupid person is someone who causes harm to others, without gaining anything for themselves. Read that again. Let it sink in. This is the most chaotic, irrational, and dangerous kind of individual that exists. Because think about it. If someone harms you for personal gain, at least that makes sense. You can predict it. You can prepare for it. That's just self-interest at work, even if it's unethical. But when someone hurts you for no reason, without gaining anything themselves, how do you fight that? How do you defend yourself against pure, unfiltered stupidity? The answer, you can't. That's why it's so dangerous. Oh, all right, so let's break this down. If stupidity is so destructive, why does it even exist? Why would someone act against their own interests while hurting others at the same time? Simple, because stupidity isn't about intelligence. It's about irrationality. There are people who destroy their own opportunities out of laziness or stubbornness, vote for policies that actively make their lives worse, spread misinformation that harms them as much as it harms others, sabotage projects, friendships, or careers out of sheer pettiness, not strategy. And the scariest part? They don't even realize they're doing it. See, intelligence allows a person to recognize cause and effect. It makes them understand consequences, but a truly stupid person lacks this ability. They just act blindly, thoughtlessly, without any awareness of the destruction they leave behind, even when it comes back to hurt them too. That's why you can't reason with stupidity. It doesn't respond to logic. It doesn't learn from mistakes. It just keeps going, wrecking everything in its path, including itself. Now, here's something important. A stupid person is not the same as an evil person. We tend to lump them together, but they're actually two very different threats. Let's say you're playing a game of chess. A bandit, an evil person, is like a ruthless strategist. They make calculated moves to win, even if they have to cheat. A stupid person is like a lunatic who randomly moves pieces around, ruining the entire game for everyone, including themselves. Which one is more dangerous? You might think the bandit because they're actively working against you, but no, the fool is far worse. See, a bandit, a corrupt politician, a criminal, a con artist, at least has a goal. They may be selfish, manipulative, and cruel, but they have some logic to what they're doing. You can predict their moves, but a stupid person? They have no strategy, they have no reason, they have no logic, and that makes them unbeatable. You cannot negotiate with a force that doesn't know what it's doing. You cannot plan for an opponent that doesn't even know what game they're playing. A bandit steals your wallet and runs. A stupid person burns down the entire building, including the room they were standing in. That's why stupidity is infinitely more dangerous than malice. Let's talk about real-world consequences. Because this isn't just theory. This is history. There have been moments in time when bad decisions weren't just harmful, they were absolutely pointless. Example, the 2008 financial crisis banks gave out loans to people who couldn't pay them back. Those loans collapsed, triggering global economic destruction. Did the banks benefit in the end? No. Did the borrowers benefit? No. Did anyone win? No, everyone suffered. That's not just corruption. That's stupidity on a global scale. Millions of people lost their homes, their jobs, their life savings, all because a handful of people made irrational, short-sighted decisions that hurt others and themselves. That is the purest form of stupidity. Now apply this pattern to wars that didn't need to be fought, economic policies that made nations collapse, leaders who ignored every warning sign of disaster, and you'll see it. The third law of stupidity in full effect. Picture this. You're playing chess against a great strategist, a bandit. They might be ruthless, they might be cunning, but at least they're playing the same game as you. Now imagine instead you're playing against a monkey that throws pieces off the board, smashes the clock, and then sets the table on fire. That's what it's like dealing with a truly stupid person. They don't care about logic. They don't care about consequences. They don't even realize they're ruining the game for themselves. And that's why they are the most dangerous force on Earth. All right, now that we know stupidity is the greatest threat, what can we actually do about it? Avoid stupid people whenever possible. They are not predictable and they will take you down with them. Do not try to reason with stupidity. You will waste your time, energy, and sanity. Watch for stupidity in high places. The worst disasters come from foolish leaders making decisions that harm everyone, including themselves. Never assume stupidity will fix itself. It won't. It only gets worse when ignored. Be aware of your own stupidity. We all have blind spots. The moment you think you're immune, you've already started making mistakes. If history has shown us anything, it's this. The most dangerous people in the world aren't criminals or tyrants. They're the fools who have no idea what they're doing, but keep doing it anyway. They don't need a reason to cause chaos. They just do. And if you don't see them coming, you will pay the price. Now let's move on to the fourth law. Why we keep letting stupidity win. Because this is where things get really frustrating. Let me know if you're ready for the next lesson. All right, my friend, you've made it this far. You've learned that stupidity is everywhere, it's unshakable, and it's more dangerous than evil. Now let me hit you with the most frustrating truth of all. Not only is stupidity destructive, it is also disproportionately powerful. I know. It feels unfair. It feels like the universe played some kind of cruel joke on us. But history has proven, time and time again, that stupid people end up holding far more influence than they should, often shaping the course of entire civilizations. Why? Because they are unpredictable, irrational, and immune to reason. And when you combine unpredictability with ignorance, you get an unstoppable force that smart people constantly fail to counteract. That's what makes the fourth law of stupidity so dangerous. Stupid people don't just exist. They rise to power, dictate policies, wreck institutions, and steer entire nations toward disaster. And worst of all, the rational, intelligent people who should be stopping them almost always fail to do so. Now, think about this. If stupidity is so destructive, shouldn't it naturally eliminate itself? If stupid people make bad decisions, shouldn't they eventually fail and intelligent people rise to the top instead? Well, in a perfect world, maybe. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world where stupidity flourishes, and the dumbest people often hold the most power. Why? Because stupidity has two dangerous advantages. Stupidity is unpredictable. Smart people follow patterns. They analyze, strategize, and make calculated decisions. Stupid people? They act completely at random. They make impulsive choices, contradict themselves, and ignore logic altogether. And that makes them almost impossible to predict or control. A corrupt person wants money and power. You can negotiate with them. A stupid person just causes chaos. You can't reason with that. Imagine playing chess against a grandmaster. At least you have a chance, right? You can analyze their moves, counter their strategy, and maybe even win. Now imagine playing chess against a monkey that throws pieces around, flips the board, and then sets the table on fire. How do you win against that? You don't. And that's how stupidity seizes power, by being too irrational to stop. Stupidity spreads like a virus. Here's the worst part. Stupidity isn't just an individual problem, it's a social contagion. One stupid leader inspires more stupidity in the system. One bad decision creates a chain reaction of worse decisions. One irrational movement gains traction because stupid people are loud and relentless. And once stupidity infects a society, it's incredibly hard to reverse. Because remember, intelligent people tend to doubt themselves, while stupid people are always convinced they're right. And guess which one ends up leading? Yeah. All right, let's break this down. How does stupidity worm its way into positions of power? Simple. It follows a pattern. one that is played out over and over again throughout history. One of the greatest ironies of democracy? The people who are best suited to lead are often the ones least interested in power. Meanwhile, the loudest, most reckless, and least qualified people are often the ones who crave power the most. That's why, time and time again, stupid leaders rise to the top, because they're the ones willing to say anything, promise everything, and bulldoze their way into power without any real plan or wisdom. And because stupid people love other stupid people, they keep voting them in. Have you ever noticed that the higher you go in an organization, the less common sense you find? That's because institutions are perfect environments for stupidity to grow. The people making the biggest decisions are often the farthest removed from reality. Higher-ups delegate responsibility but take none of the blame. Bad decisions get buried in layers of paperwork and bureaucracy until no one knows who to hold accountable. And before you know it, an entire system is being run by incompetence. Here's the secret about the corporate world. Most companies don't fail because of bad luck. They fail because stupidity eventually outweighs competence. Think about it. Who gets promoted? The person who plays the game, not the smartest worker. Who makes the big calls? The guy who takes credit for others' ideas, not the actual problem solver. Who stays stuck at the bottom? The people who are too rational to engage in corporate nonsense. That's why brilliant companies eventually turn into bloated, inefficient disasters. Because stupidity rewards itself, and intelligence gets sidelined. And once stupidity is in charge, good luck fixing it. Every great civilization had a breaking point. The moment when stupidity overtook reason, and the whole thing collapsed. The Roman Empire ignored every warning of its decline until it fell. The Soviet Union collapsed because of policies that made no economic sense. Financial crashes happen when people refuse to learn from past mistakes. In each case, stupidity wasn't just present. It was running the show. And by the time intelligent people realized what was happening, it was already too late. Now, you might be wondering, why don't intelligent people stop stupidity before it's too late? Here's the painful truth. Smart people are too busy thinking, while stupid people are too busy acting. Intelligent people. Analyze everything. Consider every possibility. Overthink the risks. Meanwhile, stupid people just charge forward with full confidence, leaving destruction in their wake. And because intelligent people hesitate, they often lose to stupidity by default. That's why history is filled with brilliant thinkers who got crushed by idiots. Imagine this. A brilliant military strategist spends years crafting the perfect war plan. Every move is calculated, every resource optimized. Then his opponent, a reckless fool, ignores the strategy completely and just starts burning everything. Suddenly, the strategist's entire plan is useless because he was preparing for a rational enemy, not an idiot with a torch. That's how stupidity wins. By being so unpredictable, so chaotic, that even the smartest people can't react fast enough. All right, here's the reality check. You can't eliminate stupidity, but you can stop it from ruining your life. Recognize stupidity early. The faster you identify it, the faster you can get away. Don't waste time arguing with stupid people. You will never win. If stupidity is in charge, cut your losses and leave. You can't fix a broken system from within. Never assume logic will fix things. Stupid people don't care about logic. Because at the end of the day, the only way to survive the rise of stupidity is to stay one step ahead of it. Now let's move on to the fifth law. The most dangerous type of person, because trust me, this is where it gets really terrifying. All right, my friend. We've reached the final law, the one that ties everything together, the one that makes stupidity not just annoying, not just frustrating, but truly terrifying. See, we've already learned a lot. Stupidity is everywhere. First law. It never decreases no matter how much we progress. Second law. It's more dangerous than evil because it's irrational. Third law. It rises to power because intelligent people don't know how to fight it. Fourth law. Now we arrive at the biggest, most unsettling truth of them all. A stupid person is more dangerous than a bandit. Not equally dangerous, not similarly dangerous, more. And if you think about it for even a second, it makes perfect sense. A bandit steals from you. A bandit exploits you. A bandit operates out of self-interest, but a stupid person? They can destroy you, themselves, and everything around them, and not even realize it. They don't need a reason. They don't need a motive. And worst of all, they cannot be reasoned with. That's what makes stupidity the most destructive force in human history. All right, let's get practical. What does stupidity actually cost us? More than war, more than crime, more than any natural disaster. Because while a war eventually ends, stupidity is permanent. While a criminal targets individuals, stupidity destroys entire systems. The economic cost of stupidity. Financial crashes happen because people ignore obvious warning signs. Governments waste billions on programs that don't work. Companies go bankrupt because stupid decisions compound over time. Resources are wasted on projects that make no sense. It's why some nations stay poor despite having enormous natural wealth. Because corruption is bad, but stupidity is worse. Corrupt leaders at least steal for their own benefit. Stupid leaders, they just ruin everything with no upside. The cost of stupidity and innovation. Ever wonder why some ideas that should change the world never take off? Because stupidity blocks innovation at every turn. Scientists make breakthroughs, but bureaucracy slows them down. Visionaries propose great ideas, but short-sighted leaders reject them. Education could uplift entire societies, but stupid systems keep people ignorant. Imagine how much further we'd be if stupidity wasn't constantly pulling us back. We could be living in a more advanced, more efficient, more peaceful world. But stupidity keeps us in an endless loop of repeating the same mistakes. History is filled with stupid military decisions. Decisions that cost millions of lives for no reason. One of the best examples, World War I. Leaders ignored obvious signals of disaster and stumbled into a global war. They used outdated tactics despite clear evidence that they didn't work. They sent soldiers to their deaths by the thousands in pointless trench warfare, and by the end of it, nothing was achieved, only mass destruction. World War I wasn't won. It just ended. Because stupidity doesn't create victory, it only creates suffering. And the scariest part? These weren't uneducated men. These were kings, generals, and policymakers, the so-called best minds of their time. But they made stupid, senseless decisions that led to one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. That's why stupidity is deadlier than war itself, because it fuels destruction without purpose. Now, here's the real question. If stupidity is everywhere, if it's unchangeable, if it never decreases no matter how much we learn or progress, then how the hell do we stop it? Option 1. Educate people? Tried that. Doesn't work. Education doesn't lower stupidity. It just gives stupid people bigger words. Option 2. Outlaw stupidity? Nice idea, but who decides what's stupid? That would get abused immediately. Option 3. Expose stupidity? Sure, but stupidity is immune to logic. If facts could fix stupidity, we wouldn't be in this mess to begin with. So what can we do? Here's the only real solution. You can't stop stupidity, but you can protect yourself from it. That means avoid stupid people. Do not engage. Do not argue. Do not try to fix them. Prepare for stupidity in every plan you make. Expect the unexpected. Recognize when stupidity is rising in power and get out before it's too late. Never assume intelligence will win on its own. You have to actively fight for it. Because if you don't take stupidity seriously, you will become its next victim. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds hopeless. Like humanity is just doomed to repeat the same mistakes forever. Like progress is an illusion and stupidity will always keep us from truly advancing. So let me leave you with this. Yes, stupidity is constant, but intelligence can be cultivated. Yes, stupid people will always exist, but smart people can always learn how to navigate around them. And that's our only real advantage. Stupidity may be inevitable, but survival is a skill. So the final question is this. Now that you understand the laws of stupidity, how will you use this knowledge? Because the truth is, you will encounter stupidity every day for the rest of your life. The question is, what will you do about it? My friend, this is the harsh reality. Stupidity is eternal. It is unshakable. It is woven into the fabric of existence. But you don't have to be its victim. The battle against stupidity will never be won. But those who understand it can at least stay ahead of the collapse. And in a world where stupidity dominates, awareness is your greatest weapon. So go forward, stay sharp. And whatever you do, never underestimate the power of stupidity. Because once you do, that's when it wins. This is the end of the laws of stupidity. But if you want, we can dive deeper into how to actively outmaneuver stupidity in daily life. Let me know where you want to go from here, and I'll be right there with you. All right, my friend. We've traveled a long road together. We've uncovered the brutal truth about stupidity. how it's universal, constant, immune to progress, and more destructive than malice. We've learned how it sneaks into power, spreads like a virus, and collapses entire civilizations. We've talked about how stupidity cannot be defeated, only navigated, outmaneuvered, and survived. So now we arrive at the final question. If stupidity is eternal, how do we adapt? How do we keep intelligence alive when the world constantly tries to smother it? How do we fight an enemy that doesn't even know it's fighting us? Let's break it down. Accept reality without surrendering to it. The first mistake people make? Thinking stupidity can be erased. Let's be clear, it can't. You can't educate stupidity out of existence. You can't argue it into extinction. You can't fix a system that rewards it. So what do? You accept that stupidity will always exist, but you do not submit to it. See, people take two extreme approaches to this truth. They become cynics. They stop caring, stop thinking, and let stupidity win by default. They become obsessed. They waste all their energy trying to fix the unfixable. Both of these are losing strategies. Instead, the real key is this. Be aware of stupidity. Navigate around it. Focus on building intelligence where it can thrive. Because stupidity may be eternal, but intelligence only dies when we stop defending it. Counteracting stupidity in daily life. So how do we actually fight back without losing our sanity? Choose your battles. Wisely, listen, not every fight is worth having. You cannot reason with the unreasonable. If you see stupidity happening and it doesn't directly affect you, walk away if it does affect you. Find a way to minimize the damage, but do not waste energy trying to convert stupid people. Cultivate small strongholds of intelligence. The best way to fight stupidity is to surround yourself with intelligence. Find people who think deeply and engage with them. Build small groups of rationality, places where ideas and logic still matter. Create environments where stupidity has no power. Stupidity dominates when it has the loudest voice in the room. So make sure your room is filled with people who value reason. Stay silent. When necessary, strategic. When needed. Sun Tzu said, "Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt." That applies perfectly to dealing with stupidity. You don't have to announce your intelligence. Let fools expose themselves. You don't have to argue. Let stupidity destroy itself. Move in silence. Act when it matters. Because the smartest people in history weren't the ones who fought every battle. They were the ones who waited for the right moment to strike. Never underestimate stupidity. Again, this is the final, most important lesson. The moment you underestimate stupidity is the moment it wins. Because remember, stupid people are not just unaware of their stupidity, they are aggressively confident about it. That's why stupidity keeps winning. Smart people doubt themselves. Stupid people don't. Smart people hesitate. Stupid people charge forward. Smart people think before acting. Stupid people act before thinking. And in a world where confidence often matters more than competence, stupidity thrives. So, what's the answer? Never assume intelligence will win on its own. You must actively defend it. That means being skeptical, questioning everything, and never blindly following trends. Holding leaders, institutions, and systems accountable. Encouraging independent thought and pushing back against stupidity wherever possible. Because if intelligent people stay passive, stupidity takes over by default. And if that happens, history has shown us exactly how it ends. Here's the truth, my friend. The battle against stupidity is eternal. But to fight it is the essence of intelligence itself. It will never be easy. You will feel alone sometimes. You will watch stupidity rise and wonder if the fight is even worth it. You will question whether intelligence even stands a chance in a world that often rewards foolishness. But remember this. Stupidity may be a constant, but intelligence is a choice. Every time you think critically, challenge bad ideas and refuse to let stupidity dictate your life, you are keeping intelligence alive. And that is the only battle worth fighting. So go forward, stay sharp, and never ever let stupidity win without a fight.